I remember reading last week or between last week and this week about, the predictions of when we might see the rates go down. And then I saw your rate chart at the beginning and it talked about the 3-2-1 buy down. And I know that's one of those things that's like a normal tool for you to be able to talk about, but there are a lot of people out there who have no idea what a 3-2-1 buy down is and what that would mean for them. To me, it seems like, wow, they're in the best of both worlds, because I think it was 4.25 in a 3-2-1 buy down. And the prediction is the rates will start to soften and go down again, maybe in the third or fourth quarter next year. Wouldn't that seem like it's a great tool to be, putting into play right now and take advantage of the prices before they start going up?
Well, exactly. It is. And we've touched on it before. And I've said many times that in the real estate markets, home builders understand what you just described, the use of the financial aspect of the home purchase to benefit the buyer and make the purchasing decision a little bit more, amenable, something that's going to be a little bit more satisfactory in terms of the buyer's current financial situation. So yeah, on our rate chart, right at the very top, we've got the 3-2-1 buy down. This is a very simple concept. What it basically is you take a current mortgage rate, we'll call it 7.25, as you see on the 30-year fixed line. But with the 3-2-1 buy down, all that is happening is that money is being set aside to subsidize the interest rate and the resulting monthly payment for the first 3 years. So the first year, the interest rate subsidized by 3% to 4.25. The second year is subsidized by 2% to 5.25. The third year is subsidized by 1% to 6.25. And then in the fourth year through the 30th, it is at the note rate of 7.25. This 3-2-1 buy down obviously is not free. It has to be purchased. For 3-2-1, on average, again, it will vary depending on where the rate level is and what the loan amount is. But on average, a 3-2-1 buy down is going to cost about 4.25% of the loan amount. So with that, you say, okay, well, how does that get paid for? Well, it doesn't make sense for the buyer to pay for it, for the borrower, because then you're just using money you have now up front to subsidize your rate in the future. That's not a good financial decision. You do need to use other people's money to do this. And the most obvious thing to do is when you're looking at a home that you want to buy, you really like it, it meets your needs, you need a bigger home, a nicer home, you need more bedrooms, those kind of things. What you have to realize is in the current environment, the buyers have a little bit more leverage. If you see a home you really like, but it's been on the market maybe a couple weeks, 30 days, 45 days, and it hasn't sold yet, that's a signal that you've got a little bit of room in the price. But don't jump into just a price reduction, which oftentimes can be taking 3 or 5% off the price, and you submit a low price offer and you hope it gets accepted. Don't do that. Submit a full price offer, or maybe even slightly above full price, but ask the seller to pay that cost of a 3-2-1 buy down. Mm-hmm. That way, if they agree, that first year you're at 4.25, not 7.25, and depending on the loan amount, and in today's average loan amount, that can be worth $1,000 a month in the mortgage payment the first year. And that 3-year period of that bought down rate is your window to take advantage of what Warren Buffett calls your one-sided bet. You're going to take the loan at the 7.25 note rate, negotiate the 3-2-1 buy down. You're taking a one-sided bet where if you're right, within the next 3 years, mortgage rates are going to fall and you can refinance out of that 7.25 note rate into something that hopefully will be in the 5s, maybe even 4s. So that's basically how it works. Home builders do this all the time. Resale markets, we've seen a little bit more use of this, but I still think not as much as we should.
Well, I appreciate that. I just thought, boy, this is a perfect example of discussing this before we jump into today's questions, because I think it is definitely one of those things where you said, you and Dave Ramsey, Dave's a smart guy, you're smarter, that buy your house now, but there are ways to do it versus just asking for a discount. So,
well, one other point about this, if I may, I saw a presentation this morning with current data for the California real estate market, state of California, as well as here in our local market. And an interesting change, last year in many markets and throughout much of the state, last year, the year before, and actually 2 years ago, 80% of listings were selling over list price.
Mm.
Now only, like 20%. So that's a big shift. And again, that's another signal that home prices, while they haven't dropped substantially, they've softened. And that's where it gives you some room to negotiate, this kind of option, this 3-2-1 or 2-1 buy down, get the seller to pay for it. It's a win-win for everybody, I think. And it just, I think, is a little bit underutilized in the resale markets.
Yeah. Remember, do this before you discount the price. Talk to your agent. And if you're not sure, hey, what this all means, the best thing to do is to call Art first at 760-883-5700 and say, hey, I'm looking at a house. What does this mean? How much should I ask for a buy down? You'll help them kind of, if you will, set up the scenario, won't you?
Well, exactly. In fact, what I encourage people to do, either a prospective home buyer or their agent or both, maybe you're looking at a house. Again, you're contemplating an offer and you're thinking, well, we want to offer below list by some amount. I think it would be worthwhile to check with someone like us, like me, or if you have a preferred lender, check with them, but check with somebody and just ask, we're going to take a look at this home for, $600,000 and we're going to offer $575,000. Is there a better approach for me as a buyer, or for my buyer if I'm the agent? Is there a better approach to get that $25,000 in concession? Is there a better approach of trying to get that not in price reduction, but in some other way, using the $600,000 list price, but get those $25,000 and apply it in a different way for the benefit of the buyer financially? And there are, as we just described, some very effective ways to do that I think are very, very powerful and compelling for a buyer to now realize it is a good time to buy if we can pull off this kind of strategy.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned next week for another edition of Mortgage Minute. In the meantime, I'm Art Alvarez at MortgageWorks, where we do have the answers and they're on the house. Take care.